Hey everyone, this is Amber Key, and you're listening to a Bright Idea podcast, a show where I sit down with entrepreneurs to hear about the aha moments that launch their business. Guys, if you're listening to this episode, this is a wrap-up episode of the season 1 of a Bright Idea podcast. I cannot believe we are at the end of season 1. We are 21 episodes. This has been such a labor of love. It's been so exciting to talk with entrepreneurs and to hear about the aha moments that launch their business, but not only to talk about how they launched their businesses, but also what are some of the challenges and tribulations that they go through in their day-to-day. We've talked to many people from many different industries. I have thought of this process as very therapeutic for me because I've been able to learn so much about what really motivates people, how people have discovered these passions. Some of the people that we've had on the show were in completely different industries, but always had this idea in their head that they wanted to run this specific business. And so really being able to tell those stories and giving people the mic to share their bright ideas has been so inspiring to me. And it has really gotten me so excited for the next season, which I will get into later in this episode. But I wanted to take the time to recap some of our biggest and brightest ideas that have been on the show this season. So if you are on a run or if you are listening to this episode in your car, this is a video episode. So if you would like, you can watch this on YouTube and on Spotify, or you can listen to this podcast everywhere that podcasts are available. Let's get into this recap of 2023. I cannot wait to kind of go down memory lane with you all. Hold up, before we get started, I totally forgot. I have to take the time to thank my amazing team and everyone behind me. I realized when I was recording this that I kept saying we, and all you guys see is my face on the camera, but I really have to acknowledge the people that are behind the scenes that help me every week put this together. So I'm going to go down a list of acknowledgements. And I first have to start off with my amazing editor, Chris Kramer. He is all the way in Pittsburgh, so we work virtually together. But the reason that we've been able to put together this product every single week is because of this man. We work so well together. He takes all of my suggestions. He adds cool transitions to the show, and we are super excited for the next season. We have a bunch of ideas that we are excited to bring to you, so I can't thank him enough. I also have to preface this by saying that people reach out to me all the time to say, like, how did you start your podcast? I mean, I am no expert, and there are 3 million podcasts out there, and I see myself as a novice, but I absolutely love this. This is my passion. But for anybody who is getting into podcasting, putting together, whether it doesn't even have to be podcasting or a YouTube show, like anything, a production, anything, doing it by yourself is extremely hard. And I know that we see people all the time online who are, really grinding, putting this together by themselves. Like, cheers to those people. I unfortunately can't be that person. I would really suggest, I'm not sure what your budget is, but if you don't really have that much of money for for an editor, I really would suggest finding some way to get help with your editing, because not only does it take a load off of your plate, I mean, putting together a show in and of itself, from cold calling entrepreneurs that I want on the show, to coming up with the interview questions, to doing the research on their industry, and then sitting in front of the camera and asking them the questions. That's a lot within itself, and that we're not even getting into the social media part of it. But the editing piece takes up the most time, and it's also the most important to the overall production of the show. So I would 100% recommend not editing your own podcast, but getting an editor. And additionally, it's just really nice to have another set of eyes on the product, because when you're working in so many different directions, you miss things. You miss the like very subtle details. And so having 2, 3, 4 pairs of eyes on your product just makes it all the better. I also have to acknowledge my sister. She is incredible. She is one of the people who really motivated me to go out and do this. This has been a labor of love and a product that I've been talking about wanting to do for a very long time. I went to school for journalism. I've always wanted to be in front of the camera. I didn't necessarily believe in going the traditional route, but she and I would literally, when we lived together in an apartment in DC together, we would manifest these ideas that we always had. And I always was drawn to entrepreneurship and business. I think that I have like half business mind, half creative mind. And she was definitely one of the people that told me to just freaking do it. So I have to thank her. She also, if you haven't watched our Lumiere Vodka episode with Terrence Wheeler, who is the founder of Lumiere Vodka, a premier vodka company, she filmed that in person in Maryland. She also edited it, and she works for an NFL team and still like found the time in her busy schedule to do that for me. So you will be seeing more of her work in the next season. She is going to be helping me with some in-person things. So have to acknowledge her. And then I have to acknowledge my friends and my family, specifically one of my friends at work. Her name is Shekinah. She is the reason for the background, the faux wall that I have, and the sign that says A Bright Idea. She kind of really listened to me. I would come into her edit bay all the time and I'd be like, girl, I have this idea. I want to have a podcast. I want to bring entrepreneurs on the show. I want to do this, this, and this. And instead of like one of those coworkers that's like, okay, girl, back to work, like she really helped to cultivate this idea. So I have to acknowledge my friends and my family, but I really have to acknowledge the friends that have been riding for me since the very beginning. And I want to really stress the importance of how important it is to have people in your corner. Not everybody is against you. There really are people out there that want to see you succeed. And when you find those people, you keep them very close, because when one of us wins, we all win. So I am done with the acknowledgements and the thank yous. Let's get into this episode. So to start the episode, I also have to thank the fans. The Bright Idea fans that tune in every single week. If you know me, you know that I am really into the analytics. I'm really into like the numbers and the audience. I've always been a big, I've always loved, I've always loved numbers. Okay, that's a lie. Stop lying to these people. I don't like numbers. I'm like so creative brained, like numbers are just like get jumbled in my head. I am good at like counting my money and knowing the numbers behind an audience. So I will say that numbers and I don't do very well together, but when it comes to those two things, my money and who's watching my show, numbers are my best friend. So every single week I look at the numbers and I look at the audience that watches this, and I just love that my peers, you guys, are really tuning in every week and really showing me what you guys like. And I've loved the comments and loved the feedback. And so part of this episode is, one, going down memory lane, but two, I want to kind of go through what you guys enjoyed. And so for the people who have not listened to these episodes yet, I want to give y'all some takeaways. So let's get into it. Our biggest, most watched episode on A Bright Idea podcast was with Financed. Financed is an online platform that provides tips for 9-to-5 hotties, as she likes to call them. She gives advice to women who work a 9-to-5 that they can take a hold of their financial future by elevating their careers and elevating their soft skills and their transitional skills to get to the next step.
Yeah, so right now, Finance is really about helping 9-to-5 hotties see what skills they have and be able to grow their money, grow their income with the skills that they already have, right? So if you want to start working with me, the best way to do it is to take my free quiz, because then I'll be able to give you personalized advice on what path to take. But right now, how you can work with me is in my 6-figure skills masterclass. Like, that is my intro class. Over 700 9-to-5 hotties have taken it. And it's really about showing you
Me
that
included.
you can. Yes, I was going to say, yes, I know, Amber, you've taken it. And really about helping you see that you have so many more transferable, high-paying skills that you probably could be coming to work. And let's use sites like LinkedIn and other technology to be able to get you closer to those jobs and career paths that you want. From there, I coach, right? So I actually have like a 6-week live coaching program where I take someone who is ready to double or triple their income from step A on what skills I have to step Z, how do I negotiate an offer and quit with grace, right? So pretty much everything that I've learned over my 5.5-year career, I bundle that all into a 6-week program to be able to help you feel that even if you don't feel like you have the confidence or clarity on what to say, what to do, and how to pivot, that now you have a clear blueprint on how to do that.
All right, our next most listened episode was with Shannon Thomas. She's the owner of UndiWash. UndiWash is a plant-based laundry detergent used for your underwear that helps kill the bacteria that usually causes vaginal infections. This was not only one of our top listened to episodes, but was also one of the most controversial, and just happened to be our first episode. But we had to come out strong. I was a little hesitant when I put this out because I was like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think of me? My very first episode on this podcast, we're talking about vaginas. And I was like, oh my God, like, I also have very supportive parents. I think I've mentioned that before. My parents are extremely supportive, and they are there every step of the way. And so my dad actually sent this podcast. He shared it with all of his friends. And my dad has a lot of friends. He has his golf friends. He has his organization friends, his church friends, his family friends, his neighbors. I'm so grateful for my father, but it was clear he did not listen to the first episode before sending this out to the universe. And it happened to be that my first episode launched the week of his 60th birthday party. And so all of these people were coming to the party, and I was like, oh my God, they're gonna hear me talk about vaginal infections, these 60-year-old men. And I was blown away by how much feedback I got, specifically, from everybody, from every age group, every men and women, just everybody, but most specifically older men. I had a lot of men come up to me to say that they had never heard of these things, they had never, or that they learned so much in this episode. And I think that really warmed my heart, because that was the whole purpose of this episode. When I was talking to Shannon, who we'll hear from in a second, she was very bold and outspoken about why she created this product. And if you haven't listened to the episode already, I strongly encourage hearing her story, because her path to creating UndiWash and creating this brand of laundry detergent for your intimates is just so fascinating and so inspiring. But one of the things that I really loved about Shannon's story was that she not only is creating this product for women to use for their intimates to help fight these recurring infections that she was finding women to have, but she's also, along with that, creating a space so that people teenagers all the way to, throughout adulthood can come and talk about vaginal infections in a way that is not taboo. Being a woman, we all experience these things. I mean, and another thing that I really loved about this episode was that oftentimes people think that like yeast infections, UTIs, bacterial vaginosis all comes from like being dirty or being like having unprotected sex and all and yes, those can be contributors. Let me not play doctor here, but a lot of times it could just be like thrown off from your pH. It could be that you tried a new laundry detergent and it just didn't sit well down there, or you went out for a run and you stayed in your running clothes longer than you were supposed to. And so I really enjoyed this episode because it really opened up a lot of people's eyes to the fact that, number one, this doesn't have to be a secret. In fact, by sharing your story and by talking about it openly, it makes you feel like you are not alone. And two, that women who are going to the doctor time and time again and being prescribed these medications that were not working or were making you feel worse and having symptoms unrelated to your vaginal infection, that there was an alternative. So I love that this is her mission, that she is not only creating this product to alleviate symptoms, but she is helping to find a solution, and she is inspiring others to not feel alone and to talk about their problems. So let's take a listen to this episode with Shannon Thomas, owner of UndiWash. What has been the most rewarding part about UndiWash and being your own boss?
Not having infections. Helping women, because it can be debilitating, especially with the bacterial vaginosis, because, if you can smell yourself, someone else can smell you. That's how you really know the difference of that and yeast. Like, it really has a distinct odor. And it makes you feel self-conscious. So the fact that I know that I'm helping women to kind of get their confidence back is such a big deal. Women hit me up on Instagram when they see me in the street. They're like, "Oh, you UndiWash." People don't even know my name. Okay, they know me by UndiWash, and that makes me feel so good because I know I'm making a difference.
Next up is a special one. It is definitely an episode that I really took to. I reached out to this specific person through Instagram. For the people that are listening that know me, they know that one day I will own a farm. Yes, I'm a city girl through and through. I live in DC, in the middle of it all, but I've always been fascinated with owning chickens and having my own eggs and growing my own food. So this particular person, Doug Adams, owner of New Brooklyn Farms, was very near and dear to my heart. It was also one of our most listened to episodes on A Bright Idea, and for good reason. Doug has a phenomenal story. This guy worked in the music industry for a while. He worked in advertising, and he is in tech now, and he is from Mount Rainier, Maryland, which is just blocks away from Washington, D.C. And he grew up in a home in Mount Rainier, Maryland, where right next door to his house was a vacant lot. And in 2016, Doug decided he wanted to start investing in real estate, as many of us do. You get to that point in your life where you're like, it's time for me to own something. And instead of buying this land and building a house on this land, he decided that he was going to build a farm. Doug was very into, and still is, very into eating healthy, knowing where his food is coming from, and he thought that building a farm would not only allow him to know exactly where his food is coming from because he's the one growing it, but it also would help to revitalize his neighborhood and kind of bring in other people who can learn how to grow food on the farm as well. During this episode, we talked a lot about his journey in purchasing land. We talked about Black farmers and some of the trials and tribulations that they go through and how he is helping to kind of change that narrative. We talked about how even though Doug does not currently live in Washington, D.C., he lives in New York City, but he is able to still run the farm from a distance because he has residential farmers who are business owners themselves and are able to grow their foods on his land and really help to run their own businesses. So really interesting in terms of like vertical marketing and like using his land as a way to help fund other things within the farm. And it was just a really, really inspiring episode. Doug has definitely, even after the episode, been a huge supporter of the podcast. We've talked about turning his greenhouse on his farm into a content space for potential episodes in the future. So I would stay tuned for that. But yeah, this was a really cool interview that I had to sit down with an entrepreneur who is kind of breaking away from like the stereotypical or traditional idea of what it means to run a business. And while breaking away from that stereotypical idea of what it means to run a business, offering opportunities so that other entrepreneurs can do the same. So really, a really impactful conversation, really like sort of this episode specifically was really when I started to see that the podcast could be a multitude of things bigger than what we would traditionally think of a podcast. And I'm not just talking about audio versus video or audio and video put together, but really how we could take this podcast and talking to entrepreneurs about their aha moment and helping to really just like brand and expose business owners and help to grow and sustain and scale their businesses through this platform. And it kind of generated after having this conversation with Doug in this episode and what he's been able to do with New Brooklyn Farms. So let's take a look at New Brooklyn Farms with Doug Adams. Here we go.
Intuitively, that just once the idea popped in my mind of growing food on this space and the fact that my family home is right next to it, that just sounded like utopia, like how we are supposed to be living. And this is without me doing any research, getting inspired by anything online or anything. Like, I'm just like, that would be really dope if we could just, it's dinner time, we need salad. Let's go over next door to the farm and grab some salad and like, that just sounded dope to me. Yeah. So it started there. And then more, in a more technical way, I had to really research what it all looked like. What about the weather? Is there a reason why we don't see this in this region being done? Like, do people even grow food in urban areas? And that's how I got introduced to the concept of an urban farm.
So this next episode generated a ton of buzz, and it honestly ended up being one of my personal favorite episodes just because of the content. So let me give you a little bit of backstory. As I had mentioned, I have a 9-to-5 job. I work as a producer for a news station, and I work on the marketing side. So I am shooting, editing, writing for promos for my station. And my station happened to be out on a shoot one day at a coffee shop, and we were shooting one of our talent for an upcoming show that we were working on. And I came and I sat down with this woman who was with her friend, and I asked her if she would be an extra in our promo because we needed some more people in the background, and she and her friend agreed. And while she was signing off on our media release forms, I got to talking to her. As I do. Those who know me know that I can't keep my mouth shut. I meet people and I instantly make a friend. And it's been good. It's been good for this podcast. So we'll keep that up. But anyway, I was speaking to Anne, who I'm referring to, and we were talking about careers and what we do for a living. And she had mentioned, and I remember this distinctly because she had kind of looked at her friend and she smiled and she was like, I just became an artist. And for me, and I'll get into it in season 2. I think I'm going to do a solo episode where I give you guys a little bit of my background. But just for the purposes of this story, I went to art school for 7 years and I studied art as a minor in college. And my entire family are artists. So art, anytime someone tells me that they are an artist or that they are becoming an artist, they are pursuing a passion in art, I am like, my spidey senses go off. And so I was really fascinated with that. And I said, well, what do you mean? What do you mean you're becoming an artist? And she was like, I'm a watercolor painter. And, I used to work on Capitol Hill. That's where I met my husband, and I worked in PR, and I did that for a little bit. And I think she said she worked in like foreign relations, and then she had 4 kids. And I already know that she's a phenomenal mom. But she said that when her youngest kid went off to preschool, she decided that she was going to start painting again. And she told me this while we were in person. And then during the episode, she dives into her faith and how God sent her signs through many, many years of like, you're going to be an artist, but just not yet. Like, just be patient and you will get there. So when I put this episode out, I was so touched by all of the feedback that I received from women who are mothers and who have big, bright ideas and are waiting for the perfect time to do those things and start that business. And it doesn't even have to be a business, but like just a new hobby. Like anything, take that trip. That trip they've always wanted to go on. And so I really would encourage anybody who has not listened to this episode to go back and listen to Anne W. Thomas, because she really shares some gems here. And even if you're not a mother, even if you're not a woman, her words will inspire you. So let's take a listen.
What advice would you give to other women, moms in particular, who are in your same shoes, looking to get back into something that they've always loved and they just are waiting for God's time?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, first I would say always pray about it, and discern the right time. And my mom always had this saying about finding the right person, like your spouse. She always said the right person at the right time is the right person. The right person at the wrong time is the wrong person. The wrong person at the right time for you is still the wrong person. And I think it's like that with your career, what you're dreaming of. It's got to be the right thing, and it's got to also be the right time. So discerning that is something to think about. But if it is like the secret prayer of your heart, keep dreaming about it and be not afraid, make it happen.
So for our last trip down memory lane, I am going to share with you our most shared episode of the entire season, and that's with Miles Martin, who's the co-founder of Relay. Relay is a tech company that provides exchange zones for buyers and sellers to store their products without having to meet in person. Think of it like this. You go to purchase something on Facebook Marketplace, and instead of meeting the person in a random, McDonald's parking lot, you store it in an exchange zone that has that is provided with a code. So the person will leave the product for you, you go and you pick it up. And this is in 9 different cities all over the United States. So Miles and his coworker, Tracy Tan Jr., came up with this bright idea back in COVID. And since then, they've been able to not only build upon this bright idea, but they've been able to expand it in other cities and have been able to create other products just stemming from this idea. This is a story for someone who is starting a business with somebody else. Miles takes us through what it's like to work with a co-founder and how it's more important than just somebody who is your friend, but someone who you can be honest and very candid with. And so this is really a story of taking matters into your own hands. Miles and Tracy, also known as TJ, took it upon themselves to start this tech company and really trying to figure out what the need was. So trying to find, number one, that in this day and age, everyone just wants convenience, how to do that, and how to grow and expand that idea. And so this is a very interesting episode to listen to if you have a bright idea and you have a co-founder, what that means to have a co-founder, the relationship that you need to build with your co-founder in order to create a successful business. And also later on down the line, it's the personality traits or the way that the business is running, the skills that each individual founder has may not always be what the business needs in that moment. So Miles talks about how right now he is the co-founder of his business, and that is for right now, but later on there may be some shifts and changes, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a good co-founder or you're not a good business person, but at the end of the day, it's about the product and it's about what is going to be the most successful way of doing business. And maybe that doesn't mean that you are the leader all the time. And I just one thing that I really loved about this episode with Miles was just the maturity that he has as a business owner and as a young business owner. And that's not used in a derogatory way, but that he is actually chronologically young and that he already has this mindset of being a founder and really putting the business first over egos. And I think a lot of people can learn a lot from this episode in running their businesses, because a lot of times what happens when a business tanks is because egos were involved. And so let's take a listen to what Miles has to say about Relay and why it was the most shared episode of 2023.
I think people should work with folks who they can be candid with, right? Honesty is consistent, right? The expectation is that you're always honest, but your candor is what changes per relationship.
Mm-hmm.
How we talk to each other might not be how we talk to our grandparents, and that's not because we're not honest with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one lane. Is I think it's easier and people can be on the same page if candor goes up. The other is what I said earlier, risk tolerance. Are people taking similar or compatible risk? Like I said, we started this off with a big old research question. So if I didn't have a co-founder that was willing or they could learn through independent research and reading a bunch of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't have been a fit, right? Or the company would look so different. And maybe the last major category I think is somebody to hold you accountable about your trajectories, right? I don't want to take it for granted, and we have to be. It's our responsibilities as entrepreneurs, in my opinion, that there are people who are really good going from 0 to 1. There are people who are really good going from 1 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 100, 100 to 1 million, right? it's very rare that people are good or can grow across all of these different stages.
Mhm.
And so I feel very fortunate that I have a co-founder that we are constantly evaluating, like, are we reaching a limit on our current ability? Do we need to learn new skills? Do we need new help? Do we need more help? Do we need different resources?
All right, y'all. So that's it with this wrap up episode of A Bright Idea, this solo episode. I think it would be nice to incorporate in season 2. So let me know what you think. Let me know how you enjoyed this final episode, this wrap up episode. And I want to again extend a thank you for all of the support of this year's Bright Idea. We are only in season 1, guys. We are ready for season 2. One of my missions on A Bright Idea is not only to share stories of entrepreneurs and their aha moments, but to really help to fund and provide resources for minority business owners. As we know, and as we've heard in several episodes, one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs and startups have is the gain of capital. And so I have taken it upon myself to learn everything that I need to know about raising funds. And I would love to incorporate that in season 2 and to help provide the resources that business owners need to help keep the lights on in their companies. I, of course, love your feedback. So if you have any entrepreneurs you think that I should be following or should have on A Bright Idea podcast, please send me a DM. Please send me an email. Please text me. I am available in all modes of communication. If you have any ideas for what could spruce up the episode, some things that you like, what you don't like, let me know. I have thick skin. I can take the critiques. I am only here to get better. And yeah, if you haven't listened to all of the episodes of A Bright Idea, I'd encourage you to go back. We are back for season 2 on February 7th. We will be taking a month-long break so that we can bring you season 2 bigger and better. I can't wait. Thank you again for tuning in to this week's episode of A Bright Idea, the last and final of 2023. Still can't believe I'm saying this. Enjoy your time, be kind to each other, and I will see you in season 2.